This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jim Schaller.
Hey, good day today. We've got podcast number 10, and today we've got Eric Gall from Edison Business Advisors. Eric, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, glad to be here, Jim.
Hey, great to see you. So why don't we just jump right in, and why don't you share a little bit about Edison Business Advisors and what you guys are all about?
Okay. Yeah, I'll kind of start at the beginning. I started Edison Business Advisors back in 2014. I worked for a different business brokerage, at the time, and kind of was ready to hang out my own shingle. So we started, and, at that time it was just me. And then I had some administrative support, and now we've got 9 agents that are working with me, and we have expanded into some other states as well. But
wow,
we're growing very fast and furious right now, and just trying to manage and control the growth. But it's been an exciting ride.
That is great. I know you've been at it for a while here. How did you get involved with this to start with?
Well, back in the late 90s, I was working at Ford Motor Company, and I worked in the business office, and I was exposed to mergers and acquisitions first through post-merger and integration work with Jaguar, Land Rover, Volvo, Ford, and Mazda. And then they handed me some businesses to prepare for sale that they had purchased prior to the internet bubble. And those businesses were mostly technology businesses related to automotive that, when the internet bubble burst, there was really no value to them. So they, at least a Ford Motor Company. So it was package them up, spin them out, sell them off to private equity groups, high net worth individuals, et cetera. So that's kind of where I first started, helping business owners sell businesses. Started doing it myself in the early 2000s to mid 2000s. We created a little private equity group. So we bought 7 companies, 9 entities and 7 companies. And then kind of started selling those off after the start of the Great Recession. And my wife decided that she loved Florida and wanted to stay here. So I needed something to do down here. So I just started doing it for other people back in 2009. That
is great. That's good. Yeah, you're originally from Michigan, right?
From Michigan, correct. Yep.
Nice. The weather's much better down here. I have to agree with her on that.
Yeah, starting about this time of year, it's much nicer here.
Right. I hear you. So are there any, I guess maybe people out there might not know enough about your industry, but are there any kind of myths or misconceptions about what you do or how you guys do it?
Well, definitely. I mean, in the state of Florida, in order to sell business assets, you need to have a real estate license. So a lot of folks confuse us with real estate agents or realtors. And literally the process of selling a business is 180 degrees different than selling a home. A home, you can put a sign out front, you can advertise and show pictures of the home and detailed descriptions of the home and try to sell it. Well, I'm dealing with confidentiality because with a business owner, you do not want your employees to know you're for sale because they'll look at it as, oh, okay, I'm going to have a new boss soon. And, the guy down the road, he's been bugging me to come over and work for him. And I think I'd probably be safer with the devil I do know versus the devil I don't know. So your employees start scattering. Your customers, if you put a sign out front or something to that effect, or they know the business is for sale, they're worried about you. Maybe you're in trouble or, maybe you're going to skimp on product and service, just because you're trying to hoard money before the sale. So they become concerned. You start losing customers. Suppliers will take a look at it and go, oh, well, they could be in trouble now. I better start collecting my money. So the 45 days they were giving you to pay your bills, now is cash on delivery. Right. So the fact that you expose a business for sale could be very, very detrimental to a business. So, we deal in confidentiality, and we have to try to attract the buyer who doesn't know what they're buying, doesn't really know where it's at, only knows a few lines about the business and sees some financial numbers. So it's very, very different than selling a piece of property.
Yeah, that's got to be a lot more difficult, especially. But you totally understand, because you're trying to sell something at a value that's higher, and you don't want to devalue it by getting information or rumors out there.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So I guess we've all been through some type of hardship or maybe challenge, especially down here in Southwest Florida. Along the way, is there something that's maybe shaped you into who you are today, and why you are who you are today?
Yeah, it was business ownership during the Great Recession. It probably shaped a lot of us. We had businesses that were dependent upon oil prices at the time. So, we had automotive service centers, and we had trucking and logistics companies is what we purchased. And the price of gasoline, just looking at the trucking company, right. The price of gasoline on the West Coast went from $1.71, a gallon overnight to $5.71. And you're collecting your fuel surcharges in advance. So the cost, the fuel cost for, doing a delivery tripled literally overnight.
Right.
And you don't have the cash in the bank to pay for that fuel. So, you're running around to banks, right, trying to get money. And then, of course, things are slowing down. So the influx of cash flow coming in, from new jobs to move material, is slowed down to a snail's pace. So, when you take your fuel surcharge and you go from 5% to 15%, well, it's still not enough, because, the jobs coming in were a third of what they were, right, when the economy was booming.
Right.
So, we had to weather that storm. I had to weather, partners exiting the business because there wasn't enough cash flow to support everyone, and then, they left. And then, of course, the cash flow that was left was starting to go to service the banks, on those extra loans. So it became a situation where, I was negotiating with some creditors and, even some of their creditors, some of my partners' creditors who, in their personal situations, they had to file, bankruptcy because they didn't thin out, their asset base before the recession like I did. I was fortunate. I sold my home in Michigan. So I just, I purchased my vehicles. I had, an F-150, and I had, I think, a nice little tiny sports car, but it was fairly modest. And, they bought, a brand new Lexus, right, a brand new Navigator, and they did it on payments, and they still had their, $1 million home in Michigan, and they were paying $6,000 a month rent in Florida. And so they were struggling. I wasn't financially. So I had, enough of a nest egg where I was fine, but they had to go get jobs. Right. So I spent a lot of time, negotiating, which was kind of natural for me, because when I was at Ford Motor Company, almost every job I had involved negotiation with someone, whether it was post-merger integration, it was negotiating agreements between Jaguar, Land Rover, Volvo, Ford, Mazda. Before that, I had, my jobs were doing joint venture projects, with Nissan, so I was negotiating agreements with Nissan, project or program management type work where I was negotiating, agreements among, engineering and purchasing and everyone else. So, I've always been negotiating something.
So right.
Yeah.
That's why you're good at what you do. That's it. Now, I guess, you mentioned a lot of the downside in the economy. I mean, recently here too. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. How has that affected your business or the businesses you're dealing with here? Whether it's locally here in Southwest Florida or nationally.
Well, in Southwest Florida, because, we're used to the seasonal aspect of business down here. We're used to, storing our nuts, right, for the slower time. And it's no different. I mean, if you look at 2020, 2021, 2022, even back into 2019, money was plentiful and money was cheap because of the lower interest rates. So business sales boomed. I mean, we were selling everything. And, I did 50 some $million in transactions in 2021 and 22.
Wow.
Was number one in Florida in 2021, was number two in IBBA, was like top 15 in M&A Source, which is, lower middle market brokers in the country. So, I was very successful, made very, solid earnings. So
right.
I was in a good position, where my nuts were stored for when all of a sudden money became less plentiful, money became much more expensive. The buyers, I don't want to say disappeared, but they certainly got far, far more cautious in what they were doing. And when they purchased a business, the multiples decreased substantially. So you had sellers who were used to seeing, their friends sell their businesses at a multiple of, say, 6 times EBITDA. And now all of a sudden, more money is going to service debt or service the interest rate portion of the debt, which leaves less for principal because it's all cash flow based, right? You have to have the money to make those payments. And if less is going to principal, that, by necessity lowers the value of the business. So a business owner in 2023 is not getting the same amount of money for their business that they got in that 2019 to 2022 timeframe. So there's been an adjustment both on the buy side and the sell side. And now people they're starting to understand it. They're starting to get it. We've been sending them the message over and over again. They didn't want to hear it at first, but, things are opening back up. We're starting to get, see more deal flow. But I would say from about fourth quarter of last year, of course, the hurricane didn't help either.
Yep.
But fourth quarter of last year through the middle of this year, things slowed down considerably for everyone. I was just running some statistics, for our region, because I'm the regional president for our state association. So I have access to the data, and sales volume in Southwest Florida was down about 50% compared to last year.
Wow.
Over the first 3 quarters. And the sales volume in dollar amounts was down 54%. So that's a pretty substantial decrease.
Exactly.
Again, I can't say it wasn't, expected, right? A hurricane will do that to you.
Yep.
And of course, the cost of money and the overall economic, issues that are going on, probably were about a third of that problem, and the other 2/3 I would say was the hurricane.
Yeah. And we've seen it down here in Southwest Florida. I mean, we've been growing for so long, and then with all the factors between, the hurricane, the economy, and, some of that has leveled out in a sense that, people aren't making those moves anymore like they used to. It's become a little bit different. Is there other things that maybe people should know about, Edison Business Advisors that they don't know?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think is important to me and my group is I like to bring in, experienced agents, so, I always look at it. We have a little tagline. It's, experience and credentials, equals results. Right. So I like to bring in experienced brokers. They've been in the industry for a while. They bought and sold businesses themselves, so they can empathize with other business owners because they've been through the process. They've walked in their shoes, right? And they've done the job for other people too, for another firm. So I like experienced people. I like credentialed people. So that means that they're keeping up to date on their education. They're going out, they're getting the certifications to prove that they've, kept up with, the education in the business. So they're aware of the latest trends, the latest, processes, methods, and tools, to get deals done, because I think that's very important. Right? You don't want to be a dinosaur in any industry right now, because technology is moving so fast. And with the advent of AI coming on, if you're not, immersed in that stuff and learning it and figuring out how to apply it to what you do, you're going to get left behind. So, we're trying to stay at the forefront of that, through education and credentials. We have, all our folks have, either CBIs from the IBBA. We have certified merger and acquisition professional designations, CMAPs, and merger and acquisition master intermediary certifications from M&A Source. So we take that, quite seriously, and, want to stay on top of the game and at the forefront of knowledge and education, especially in Southwest Florida, if not, beyond.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I know you work hard. I know you do a lot. What does Eric do outside of work?
Well, I'm kind of a baseball enthusiast, and I still play. So we try to get in as many games as we can in a year. We have a Sunday league that I'm highly involved in. And we also have a younger league that I still, do my best to keep up with the kids. And then there's tournaments. Like this month we have the Roy Hobbs World Series coming up. Here in Southwest Florida, which is a huge event, brings in tons of tourist dollars. It was canceled last year from the hurricane, but you're going to see a whole lot of people driving down I-75 and 41 and visiting, restaurants, bars, and other establishments, after their games here starting next week for probably about a good month.
That's great. Hey, you got to stay active, and that's one thing, it's the more you can do, the more you're out there, and God bless you for keep playing. I played basketball. I wish I was still playing. I need to find some place to play. But Eric, how would people go about getting hold of you? If they had any questions or wanted to learn more.
Yeah, we're pretty easy to find. We have a website. It's www.edisonb for business, A for advisors.com. So the Business Advisors is abbreviated. And they can contact me via email at eric@edisonba.com, or by phone. I've got, a cell phone follows me everywhere, 239-738-6227.
Great. Hey, Eric, I appreciated you taking the time today and getting to know you a little bit more, and we'll see you down the road here.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Estero. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpestero.com. That's gnpestero.com, or call 239-296-2621.